Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain. And he sat down when his disciples had climbed up and were before him. From his lips came this teaching. To be honored are those who are challenged by poverty and disability, for theirs is the beloved community of heaven. To be honored are those who suffer, for they shall be healed. To be honored are those who are humbled, for they shall win it all in the end. To be honored are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they shall be satisfied. To be honored are those who are merciful, for they themselves shall receive mercy. To be honored are those who are pure in intention, for they shall see God in action. To be honored are those who are peace builders, for they shall be called the children of God. To be honored are those who are persecuted for the sake of justice, for theirs too is the beloved community of heaven. To be honored are those of you who will be cursed, persecuted, and accused of all kinds of terrible things, falsely on my account. Rejoice and anticipate the great reward that awaits you in the heavens, for the prophets were abused in the same way. You all are the salt of the earth, but when seasoning becomes tasteless, with what shall it be made savory again? Why, it is good for nothing. But even then it can be thrown out on slippery walkways. You all are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and places it under a basket, but on a lampstand, shining forth to all those in the house. In this way your light must shine forth in the sight of all humanity, that they may see your good works and praise for your beloved guardian who is in the heavens. Do not assume that I have come to undermine the law and the prophets. I have not come to undermine them, but to affirm them. I tell you the truth, neither heaven and earth, nor the least stroke of any letter of the law will pass away before everything that is supposed to happen does. Therefore, whoever makes a habit of breaking the law of love, the law of loving kindness, and convinces others to do the same, will have little to do with the beloved community of heaven. But whoever practices, as well as preaches, the law of loving kindness, will be considered a giant in that beloved community of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds the literal interpretations of the Pharisees, you will not even enter the beloved community of heaven. Heard that it was said, thou shalt not commit murder, and murderers will be brought to court. But I say to you, anyone who festers with anger against someone will be brought to court. And whoever calls someone by a dirty name will find themselves in prison. And whoever casually slights someone is already in hell. So, before you bring your offering to God, while you're nursing a grievance against someone, leave your gift, reconcile yourself with that person, then return to present your offering. If you find yourself in a business dispute, be on good terms with your antagonist. Otherwise, you may find yourself in court and the judge handing you over to the sheriff and doing time in prison. I tell you the truth, the world will not let you get away without paying off all that you owe. You've heard that it was said, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say to you, anyone who looks at someone else with lust has already committed adultery against that person in one's heart. So, if your righteous eye causes you to sin, tear it away and cast your sight down. For it is better not to be a spectator than to become a spectacle yourself. And if your righteous hand causes you to sin, pull it away and keep your distance. For it is better to keep your hands to yourself than for others to seize you. And it has been said, whoever divorces his wife, let him be authorized to do so. But I say to you, any man who divorces his wife, except for sexual disloyalty, puts that woman at risk in society, for there's unfair social pressure against the divorced woman in this world. Again, you've heard that it was said to the ancient ones, "Thou shalt not break thy word, and thou shalt keep thy pledge to the Lord." But I say to you, make no promises at all, neither by heaven, which is the throne of God, nor by the earth, which is the footstool of God, nor by Jerusalem, the city of the great King, nor by the hairs of your own head could you presume to promise anything. For it's not you in the first place who could turn even a black hair white, but say yes or no about what you did do. For beyond this, it is just quibbling. You've heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, don't hit your abuser back. With violence, that is. If someone were to backhand the right side of your face, turn so that it have to strike the left side, and risk being guilty of assault. If someone were to sue you for the shirt off your back, embarrass them with your nakedness by offering up your cloak as well. And if a Roman soldier forced you to carry his pack for a mile, go 2 miles and make a friend. Anytime someone asks you to give them something or to borrow something, don't turn your back on them. You've heard that it was said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and thou shalt hate thy enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who mistreat you, so that you may become children of your heavenly guardian. For God has made the sun to shine upon the evil and the good, the rain to fall upon the just and the unjust. If you love only those who love you, isn't that its own reward? Even thieves and traitors do this. And if you welcome only those who are like you, what's noble about that? Yet isn't that what extremists do? But perfect yourself in this way, by practicing God's perfect way of loving kindness. Now, don't let your righteousness just be for show, to win favor with others. Otherwise, you'll have no reward from your heavenly guardian. Therefore, don't toot your own horn when you make your offering, to win, like hypocrites do, to get attention in the synagogues and public places. I tell you the truth, they already have their reward. Instead, make your donation so that your left side doesn't interfere with what your right side is doing. Though you make a donation anonymously, your heavenly guardian will know and reward you. And when you pray, don't be like those hypocrites who love to make a big show of their prayers in the synagogues and the public places. I tell you the truth, they already have their reward. But you can pray, even if you enter an empty room and shut the door. So pray in solitude, for your heavenly guardian will see and reward you. And when you pray, don't be like those hypocrites who babble on and think their elaborate requests will be heard. Don't be like them, for your heavenly guardian already knows what you need, even before you ask. So pray like this. Guardian of us all who is in heaven, let your name be respected, let your beloved community come to be. Let your design unfold on earth as in heaven. Give us today the bread we need, and forgive us our failures as we forgive those who fail us. And do not abandon us to disaster, but rescue us from the evildoer. So now, if you forgive others' transgressions, shouldn't your heavenly guardian forgive you? It follows that if you do not forgive others, neither will your heavenly guardian forgive your transgressions. And when you fast, don't be like those gloomy hypocrites who grimace to make a big show of their piety. That they do this to get attention in the synagogues and public places. I tell you the truth, they already have their reward. But when you are fasting, anoint your hair and wash your face, so no one can tell you are fasting, except your heavenly guardian who knows in secret. And your beloved guardian who sees you even in your hiding place will reward you. Now, don't assume you can hide your treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and thieves can break in and steal. But store your treasures in heaven, where moth and rust and thief cannot touch them. For where your heart is, that is where your treasure will be. The eye illuminates one's physical self. So if your eye is healthy, your appearance will shine. But if your eye is focused on evil, your outlook will be grim. And when gloom informs you instead of light, how sinister will that gloom be? You are not able to serve two bosses, for you'll hate one and love the other, or stand behind one yet despise the other. You can't serve both God and greed. Therefore, don't be anxious about life, about whether you shall eat or drink or have clothes to wear. Isn't life more than concerns about food and clothing? Do you see the birds of the sky? They neither sow nor reap nor gather food into barns, yet your heavenly guardian feeds them. Aren't you more significant than little birds? And can any of you extend your life any longer by worrying about it? Now, why would you fret about clothes? Think of flowers growing in a field. They don't spin and weave, yet not even Solomon was arrayed as magnificently as they are. And if God has adorned such wildflowers, which are growing in a field today and tomorrow are thrown into an oven, will not God more grandly adorn you, O ye of little faith? Therefore, don't be anxious about life, asking, what shall we eat, and what shall we drink, and what shall we wear? Aren't these the things materialists strive for? Don't you think your heavenly guardian knows that you need these things? First, search for the kingdom of the beloved community and the righteous ways of God. All these things will take care of themselves. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have its own concerns. Today has challenges enough. Don't judge if you don't want to be judged. For the scrutiny with which you scrutinize others will be used to scrutinize you. And the maneuver you give will be the same you get. Now, why would you notice a speck in someone else's eye, but ignore the log in your own eye? You hypocrite, take the log away so that you can see clearly enough to help someone else. But don't give sacred things to hyenas. Don't trust your treasures to swine, for they will trample them in the mud and break your heart. Ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the way will open up for you. For everyone who asks will receive, everyone who seeks will find, everyone who knocks will find their way. If your children were to ask you for a loaf of bread, would you give them a stone instead? If they asked you for a fish, would you give them a snake? Even if you all were evildoers, you would still know to give good things to your children. How much more so will your heavenly guardian give you good things when you ask him? Therefore, what you wish others would do for you, you should do so for them. This is the stuff of the law of Moses and the prophets' teaching. So enter the narrow gate rather than the wide and easy way that leads to disaster, though there are many who choose it. Boy, how narrow the gate and difficult the road that leads to authentic life, and how few find it. Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inside are ravenous wolves. You will know them by the outcomes they produce. You don't get grapes from thorns and thistles. Likewise, you expect tasty fruit from an apple tree and nasty fruit from a crabapple tree. A healthy tree does not produce rotten fruit, and a rotten tree does not produce healthy fruit. And any tree that does not produce healthy fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. You will know them by the harvest they produce. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the beloved community of heaven. It will only be those who do the will of my heavenly guardian, which is simply to love. Many will say to me on that sunrise to eternity, Lord, Lord, did we prophesy in your name? Did we cast out demons in your name? Did we do many mighty works in your name? Then I will declare, you never really knew me. Begone, you lawless opportunists. So, Those who hear my words and follow them, be like the wise person who built a house upon rock. Rains came down and the river rose, and the wind blew against that house, and it did not fall, because its foundation was upon the rock. And whoever hears my words does not follow them. Be like the foolish person who built a house upon sand. And the rain came down, and the river rose, and the wind blew against that house, and it all fell down, and its collapse was complete. And so it came about, as Jesus finished speaking, that the multitude of people were amazed at his teaching, for he did not preach to them like their religious experts, but rather as one who has authority. You've heard that it was said one way, but I say to you, God is still speaking. So don't pray, donate, serve just for show, because God is with you wherever you go. Therefore, do unto others as you have them do unto you, or else. Amen.